Well, you started the year at Haydock, which is a very speedy track, and Ruby was off and gone down the back straight. He sort of, I think he slightly surprised everybody by suddenly just injecting this huge, he put the turbo in, and he did the same thing in Kempton. I don't know if he's going to do it at Cheltenham, but it's a different track to be doing it on, and in a Gold Cup you tend to wind up the pace dramatically. If he's going to head for home a long way out, then he's got he's got another 2.5 furlongs to go up a hill, and it might be harder for him, if you like, and easier for us. He will have one session with Yogi next week, and he will not see a fence in between now and then. He will wear earplugs in the paddock, and he won't wear them during the race. I have total confidence, and always have had, in the horse and in Sam riding him, and obviously he's always going to ride him, but it doesn't matter, he gets on with him. Yeah, I know, it's sensible. Just like a good, honest, level gallop. And obviously, wherever Ruby is, we'd be very stupid not to be keeping an eye on him, wouldn't we? I suspect we won't be giving him, I don't know, it depends what Ruby wants to do. All Sam wants to do is get into a nice rhythm and have a nice time. If he's enjoying it, the horse will enjoy it, and so will I. I don't know, he's just been in really good form all year, and he ran, as you know, he ran a great race. He was getting £10, so he's got to improve 12 anyway. He hasn't, he's got to improve more than that, because long runs beat him, as Sam said, you know, when Burton Port was coming to him. But, I mean, there is improvement. We've got to pray for no dreaded bounce. Nobody can explain it, and nobody can tell me why it happens or what, or how you avoid it. But it does happen, and that must be the horse that you'd be worried about, the bounce factor. He's an amazing horse, a bit like Bobsworth in that he's here, but you wouldn't know he was here. He doesn't flash around doing anything, except for this year. But, I mean, the year before last, when he finished up winning at Aintree, he was second in the Sun Alliance, and he won all his other starts. He never sort of really showed us that he was a very good horse. He was just a very nice person that got on with the job. I think we started at Southall, didn't it? It was sort of, it did insinuate that I didn't think he was a star. But he did his work, and he was very straightforward. But this year, I don't know why, all that time off, then he was second in the Hennessy, got a leg, went back to Gled Hill, Trevor's stud. And in fairness, his work this year, even the whole way up to Newbury, was much superior to anything he'd done in that sort of whole lead up through his novice year. I don't know why, he seems to have improved at home anyway, and that was a very good run at Newbury. There are two reasons why we think he will. One, he's mile strong. He was never a hurdler, as you can see there. Secondly, that AP rode, and in fairness, he was probably going the best of our three going to the last in there last year. And he was a big, raw, weak horse. And, I mean, that was pure weakness. Secondly, AP said there and then, I think this horse ought to have his wind done, which has been, in fact, when he came in this year, his actual wind was quite a lot worse, and that's been done. And he said his wind was, you know, it was just there in the Supreme last year. So that's been done as well. He's great to watch, so we've just got to hope that we can keep it accurate and as spectacular as he has been. It's new. Cheltenham is obviously more testing than Newbury's and Doncasters and Kempton's, but I don't think that ought to worry him. He hasn't beaten anything yet. I mean, he has. He's beaten Pedlar's Cross, but I mean, I'm go entirely with Donald. I mean, if he says he wasn't right, which I suspect he wasn't. I mean, we just went sailing past him over the first fence, and that was the end of the race. It told us nothing. The only thing is 3 runs, he beat French Opera. Okay, French Opera had won the Game Spirit last year, but it was French Opera's first run, and I'd expect an awful lot of improvement from French Opera. So he beat not a half-fit French Opera, but a far from tuned-up French Opera. You'd say not terribly difficult. No, it's not. What has been amazing in all 3 runs is his times. Every single one of them has been staggering. Now, that was a course record at Newbury, but if you go to his Kempton and his Doncaster run, I don't know much about times. It's not something I hang my hat on. But on both days, when most races were being run 20 over, he was going around in levels and on his own without coming off the bridle. So he seems to get round there pretty quickly, and I'm not sure how many horses can go round those tracks as fast as that. Goes around there, and that's about it. In fairness, we're exactly where we were this time last year. He'd won at Ascot, and well, before that he'd actually been second in the King George as well. Some think he doesn't like Cheltenham. I hope they're wrong. It's only because he ran in the Arkle and he got completely outpaced. But he's much sharper now. This horse, this day last year, was exactly as he stands now, in great form. So 12 months ago, he had a sort of non-displaced stress fracture of the pelvis. It wasn't he's been in training a long time. He didn't miss Burton Port was actually out of training for a year and a half. This horse was out of training for 6 months. So it doesn't, it was a long time off, but it wasn't as if he was completely out of training. I'd be disappointed if this bounced. Because if this does, the other one certainly will, in which case there'll be a double bounce, and that'll be a double disaster.
He comes to the final fence, and again he's good. Medamy can't wrestle back this length and a half, and Riverside Theatre is 2 lengths clear on the run up towards the line. Medamy's given gallant pursuit all the way up the race, and out to the line. Riverside Theatre, back-to-back Betfair Ascot chases, and a great training performance. He's back with a bang for back.
Amazing, he looks 10 times better now than he did before the Reynoldsdown. The only thing I do want to do, Yogi's coming next Wednesday and he'll have his usual long run session, and I do want this horse to go and have a look. He was just a bit out to the left at Ascot, but at least Cheltenham, the last time I was there, was left-handed.
And out in front for Paddy de Plasterer from Gorvin. In 3rd place is Finian's Rainbow. Summersby in 4th place, Alpha.
Finian's is a horse I hope. He's been very different this year. His whole life last year was gung-ho. It was get out and beat him up and bash him. And he went round Cheltenham in that. And that's what I'm just trying to avoid Sprinter Sacra doing. The thing is with Sprinter, if you go and make 3 lengths at every fence, do you then just give them all back? And he will make 3. And then it's 6, and then it's 9, then it's, hang on, there's no point in sort of putting it in the bank and giving it back to them. You can't. You might as well just, you're better off putting it in the bank and taking it, and away you keep going. Finian's was doing that last year. He tried to make all in the Arkle. Because that was the way he wanted to do everything last year. He's completely different this year. He's completely changed horse. And actually David Bass wrote it this morning. He said it felt like last year. I think he's been very relaxed in his races. I think he can probably find Barry might wait a bit longer with him. I don't know, or he might take off with him. Either way, I'm not too worried. I think he's sort of been just going the right way all the season. We had a few hiccups earlier on with him, and he didn't come out till Kempton. He won, but it was a funny sort of performance. But he ran very well. He looked as if he'd come and won his race in Ascot. And I think we could just we can learn from that, and I think he'll come on from that.
Summersby up the inside, then Alpha off for Paddy de Plasterer is in 4th, the last. Finian's Rainbow, Summersby in 2nd place, has a neck to find. Then Alpha off up the run in Finian's Rainbow by about a neck or so. Summersby, his chance to shine, goes to the front, half a length clear from Finian's Rainbow, and at the line, Summersby will land his Grade 1 and win the Victor Chandler. In 2nd was Finian's Rainbow.
Quantitative easing we haven't seen since December in the Gold Cup.
That's always intention. He's very good fresh. He'll go there. He looked for all the world if he wanted 3 miles, both times at Cheltenham, in the Paddy Power and in December. And 3 miles should suit him well.
Is this the target, or are you thinking national?
I would think the national might be for another year, although he has to finish in the first 3 or is it 4 here to even be qualified for the national. Technically, he's in the national, but he's actually not eligible to run in it. So he's got to finish in the first 3 here to get qualified for the national, but that's not the reason for running in it. This has always been the objective. If he did win this and one felt inclined, we would think about it. I would think he might have another year before the national.